All right, welcome back. Well, here's the mid-April, mid-May update on the garden. You can see here my black valentines are coming out with some blooms. So we should have some beans here pretty soon. So they're doing all right. They're not growing as high as I hoped they would, but they're growing about as high as they did last time. So I guess this is about the height of black valentines. Each of those panels is like 2 or 3 by 6. So you can see they're not quite a foot tall. And there we go with the black valentine update. Over here we're starting to get some of the moving boxes that we had that are not in great condition and putting them to the side. We're going to start composting them, so that's where we're starting to set up our composting area, because again, this area here is going to be a garden, so having the compost area here is pretty convenient. And these red panels, these corral panels, one of the neighbors really wants them, so I'm thinking might be trading that for some labor or some assistance. So there's another barter option. Sorry for the dog noises. There's a lot of those around here, so it's something to kind of get used to. Here the last couple of days we've had some really high winds, like up to 50-mile-an-hour winds gusting. So there's some tin that got blown off the barn a couple years ago. We started putting it in piles, collecting it together, and it is now being redistributed. So we'll have to secure that better. Here's the Three Sisters garden. You can see we've got corn. Let's see, I showed you guys the transplants. So let's take a look at them. And one thing I've noticed is that they are kind of stunted compared to other plants here. So you see the little blue marker there. Hopefully you can see it. Yeah, right there. It's that plant in front of the blue marker towards you is significantly smaller than its neighbors. So that might be one downside to transplanting, but it is living, so that's the upside. In the back, you can see it as well. There's a blue marker there. And again, it's smaller than its neighbors, but it's alive, so there's the trade-off. So I'm not sure that it's going to produce some really vigorous plants. But you see this guy in the middle here, he's not a transplant, and similarly stunted. So we'll see how it's going. Now, a couple of the people I've talked to around here say that it's been too overcast, too cloudy, too moist, too a lot of things, too windy for a real vigorous garden so far this year. So these guys, we're about a month in, and they're supposed to be 74 to 80 days before harvest, and I just cannot see those jumping up another 4 feet, putting on ears and developing those ears in another 2 months. I just can't see it. If it happens, you'll be here to watch it, but that would be amazing. But I have a feeling that the harvest is going to be a little delayed on these guys. So we have, let's see if I can point these out to you. Here we have corn, and the nasturtium is going to be a ground cover. Over here we have the bean, and bean next to it. We have the squash plants here in front, doing pretty good. And you'll notice last time in the videos I talked about putting a cage around this garden to keep the rabbits out. Again, this is an experimental garden, so I wanted to go ahead and push forward, see what real world growing situations were like if we were unable to do that. So we're leaving it unprotected, and I think that'll give us a realistic idea of what we could expect should we not be able to protect it in the future. But again, Three Sisters Garden. Not all the sisters are equally well developed, but also you can see all the grass clippings in there. I put those on as soon as we planted. I'm thinking that may have been a mistake. Again, learning experience. I should have let them break through the soil, maybe get about 4 inches tall before I really mulched it, especially with all the water we've had. And there was something else I was going to say, but maybe I'll remember it in a minute. Over here, over on the left hand side here, we have the scarlet runners. Again, that's ornamental. It's supposed to bring in insects. Here we have the patio tomatoes, and you see they're starting to bloom here. And we got a couple little babies developing. Here we have our cucumbers. They're starting to trellis here, and that's a good thing. Back here, you can see that we're starting to get some baby cukes. Quite a few baby cukes. So I'm liking how this is looking. And this trellis, this guy is coming over here. I'm probably going to unwrap it real delicately and then raise it up the trellis so that it doesn't do that so much, just to protect things. Over here, the one that's in more shade, it's not doing as well, but it is still forming some cucumbers. This one looks a little pale, so it might not fully form. That is a moonflower that my wife is trying to grow. We've planted 5 seeds, and so far that one is the best. So I'm not sure that we have proper climate for moonflowers. Let's see, we have our big Cherokee purple tomatoes here. Been having a problem with it because it's been setting a lot of blooms, or it's been blooming a lot, but none of them set to fruit. Been doing some research. People say, to maybe put some Epsom salt in them, give it some magnesium. We'll see how that does. But if you have any suggestions, leave it down in the comments section, and I would be happy to hear them. Over here, you see we've got our sunflowers really starting to come up, but our beans got ahead of it, so we had to put in a tomato cage for the beans to have something to grow on. Thinking that I may have said this in a previous video, but the beans may need to wait a couple of weeks to a month after the sunflower seeds have planted to give them plenty of opportunity to sprout. Because the sunflowers, you can see the beans start to trellis there. But the sunflowers need to have some height on them and some rigidity to them before the beans can start growing. This poor plant, this is another tomato, obviously, and it's got some blooms. But you can see that it is being tied up. That tomato cage is tied up because this guy just got abused in the windstorm the other night. So, it was leaning over, and so we had to tie it up, and hopefully that will allow it to continue to grow. But we'll just have to see about it. Here we have, again, the jalapenos, and you can start to see some of the jalapenos are coming out. And in the back we have the shizito, and down here we have the alyssum. And so this bed's doing pretty good. You may have noticed that we're progressively moving them further and further out because it just wasn't getting enough sunlight. So as we're moving them out, we're getting better results, even with our lemons here, which I don't think I've showed you before. But these are Myers lemons, and so they have to be taken in during the winter. It's a little bit of a pain, but they had lost all of their leaves over the winter. So it's good to see that they're bushing out again. We've also I've seen a couple of blooms on them. I haven't seen those blooms set any fruit though. So we'll just keep them monitored, see what we can do. The lemons were really good last year. These are giant marigolds. I've been going around and around on what this was. They're giant marigolds, and they're doing pretty good. I'm really surprised though, because this is the same pot where we also had purslane, and I planted probably well over 200 seeds of purslane and gotten nothing for it. I guess I had just held on to those seeds too long and they weren't viable, but it's a little sad. I'll have to start over, but we'll do that. These guys are our radishes, and they are French breakfast radishes, and they're longer as opposed to the little bulbous ones that we're accustomed to. They're pretty good. I like them. We need to put out another set of them because these guys are almost gone, and might as well keep going through the summer if we can. Over here, finishing off, we've got the arugula, which is doing okay. Down here the new ones are growing pretty good. I'm thinking about harvesting these seed pods so that I can go ahead and start saving back some arugula seeds. Over here again, that's rue and dill and rue. You'll notice that all the little baby dills that were in there are gone, except for these little ones. They've been eaten by something, and we don't know what's eating them. We've been out here at midnight with flashlights looking at it, and we don't know what's eating them. So we thought that anything that might want it would go to the rue, but apparently not. We've got some mint here, petunias, and here we've got another row of dill. And we've also got the cumin and the coriander. So I believe that's the cumin and this is the coriander. So all in all, things are progressing. Not exactly as I had hoped. I hoped that we would, have purslane and that we would have another foot of growth or so on the Three Sisters by now. But it's all a big experiment our first year here. And still got some cows over there on the dam to the pond. Yeah, you should be able to see them. So we still got our fertilizer machines going. All right, folks. Well, I appreciate you joining me again, and we'll talk to you soon.